everybody. Welcome to
Hi,
Dice Jailers. My name is Jordan.
I'm still Bjorn.
Still, you didn't have it
Yeah.
changed. All right, cool.
Nope.
Uh,
Nope.
and this week,
Consistent.
this week we're going to be talking about sorcerers.
Yes. Getting
Off
into the
to a
big magic.
booming start. Uh,
Yeah.
but before we get into that, we are going to get into our announcements, which
Yep.
I don't have anything to announce.
No, not really. Not
Do
really.
you? Well, I mean, in that case, past announcements. Just how you been, bud?
Really good actually. Get to start doing dinner theater again this Saturday. Almost everybody in our cast is either a healthcare worker or a teacher, which means a lot of us have already gotten our full vaccination and some of us have gotten our half dose. And we're in a giant ass ballroom, and the amount of tickets being sold have been greatly reduced. So I've seen kind of the floor plan layout of it. The distancing is, they've done a great job on the distancing.
Dope.
Like I looked at it and I went, okay, this is legit. Where we're at, this is doable. Is it the best idea? Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm not gonna lie. I also haven't performed in front of a live audience in a year, so
Yeah. So we'll see.
yeah. So the only interesting thing is, apparently we're still doing cash tips. I don't know who the hell has cash right now because who's going to an ATM? And I
Nobody.
really, this is, I don't ever want to touch people's dirty money. I want to touch it right now less than ever. So
Right.
I'm bringing industrial gloves with me. I know somebody who's got one of those UV cleansing things. So any tips I get are going in a Ziploc bag. I'm bringing it to them, and they can UV clean it, and then I'll just go deposit it. So I'm not touching the dirty money.
Right.
But yeah,
Who wants-
that's super exciting,
Who
super
wants
cool.
to touch things other people have touched.
I know. And the other thing, I may be getting a paid DM gig.
What?
Yeah,
Through who?
yeah.
'Cause I've looked at a couple of those.
I know, right? It's Jamie's massage therapist, who she just refound. Was one that she hadn't been seeing for a while. I guess she had stopped practicing where she was at. Yada yada.
Hmm.
They reconnected. They used to talk about D&D, and it came up, and she's going, "Oh, my friends would really like to get a game." And she goes, "I know who you should talk to." So I've been totally remiss in my duties on emailing this person just because work's been super busy this week.
Well,
So the
work
plan is, plan to send an email probably tonight during Critical Role. Not a sponsor. Although,
that would be
if
the
you guys stumbled
wildest.
across this show and you want to mention us,
That would be so wild. That would be dope. That would be so wild.
I would probably pee myself if that happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to connect with them, find out exactly what it is they're looking to do. Do they want to do a one-shot, short adventure? Are we talking a campaign here? And then is it just, Zoom, theater of the mind? Do you have this like large table where it's going to be distanced and safe? Do you want maps, minis? What are we looking at?
Right.
And once I know what they want, I can give them a rate. Because
That's super dope.
yeah, it's hard to go, I want this much money. And if I go, just throwing out random, if I'm like, I want $500 during your campaign, and they're like, we were going to do a 2-hour one shot. That I don't want that much.
That's not how much that costs.
Yep. So yeah, I'm super excited about that, and I'll be sending that email either tonight or tomorrow. What about you? What's the haps? What's the good word?
I've been really it's just a whole lot of maintenance for the last week because I'm a teacher, so getting the first round of the vaccine in finally.
Nice.
Just trying to not spend money because money. And really just trying to settle into the new place is what I've been up to. I've been reading a whole lot.
Sure.
And I've just been combing through like different one shots and things on the DM's Guild and
Fun.
and just other like tabletop systems, just to get my brain out of all D&D all the time because that's what we do mostly, so that I can like steal ideas from other systems and homebrew them into my campaigns.
Speaking of other systems, I don't know. This may have been slightly before your time, so you probably didn't play it, or if you did, it could have happened. Dude, there's enough difference in this years where there's those certain cusps. Like there's just a certain cutoff. Yeah. Do you know or do you remember the board game Hero Quest?
Absolutely.
Okay. Has People have wanted it to be reprinted for decades.
Did they?
Because buying a copy of HeroQuest, if you find one, it's like $400.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's out of print.
Yeah.
Hasbro a few months ago had this really short, like sort of a Kickstarter. But they did it themselves, where
Okay.
you could get a redone, updated, reprinted HeroQuest. I just got my first email from them for an update, be like, here's where our progress is, which means probably late this year, I will have a copy of HeroQuest.
And eventually you'll just be able to manifest that hero's quest into your life.
And I'm going to have you guys over, and we're going to play HeroQuest, and it's going to be magical.
Oh, it's going to be, don't you dare.
Yeah, it's going to be magical. And the thing is, as DMs, sometimes you just have to make that magic yourself. We're talking about magic you make yourself, because
we got to get into Sorcerers about that.
So, I mean, that was the segue.
Yeah.
So, let's get cracking.
God's you see, that's right there. If we had like some kind of intro song and title card and whatnot, it would go right there after that.
It would. It would.
But I'm not really a videographer, so I'm not gonna make those.
No.
But let's talk about Sorcerers. So Sorcerers, they're this cool, weird kind of spellcaster. It's really gone through a lot of different iterations through, I mean, pick a tabletop system.
Sure.
And in 5th edition, I think it's the most interesting of the takes on Sorcerers. I
agree with that. It's super customizable. You're charisma based like a bard, and you select your spells as you level up like a bard. You're not like a druid or a cleric where you're preparing them daily. What you get is what you get.
Yeah.
However, you get so much flexibility through meta magic.
Yeah, and that's the coolest, and like I want to say one of the biggest changes to magic that they implemented for 5th edition is that meta magic doesn't apply across all the classes now.
It's sorcerers.
Just sorcerers, which is wild to me, but it also makes sorcerers so different now.
Yeah, and if you look at their spell list, you get most of the big spells off of the wizard spell list, which is nice. There are a few that aren't on there. You're not getting healing spells. You are a very offensively minded caster, which is great. Like, you are powerful. You are a weapon. You get a good amount of cantrips right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And because of your sorcery points, you get sort of your own arcane recovery type feature where you can spend those points to recover spell slots if you're not using them to alter the way your spells work. Which
but also, like, sorcery points are just wild to me. Like, like just the idea of sorcery points. Like, hey, let's look at monks and take their key points and give them to a sorcerer. Like,
and just let them go buck friggin' wild with it. And and also in media, I think it's important to talk about when people ask, because they'll get the question, what's the difference between a sorcerer and a wizard? And it's not just one has charisma, one has brains. A sorcerer, you have these powers either because of your bloodline or a treasure you found, or it could be some kind of curse. Like,
or you're just so cute that magic happens for you.
I mean, it just might. Like, for anybody who watched the Witcher series on Netflix, I thought with Yennefer of Vengerberg, they did a really good job showing what sorcery was. Because there were moments in that you would see her cast a spell, and then she would shape and sculpt that spell as it was out there. It felt like that idea of meta magic to me.
Yeah,
that's a great example of a sorcerer. Super well known from pop culture. Though the creator is a transphobic piece of shit, I'm just gonna mention this character because it's well known. Harry Potter, while he goes to a wizard school, he's a sorcerer. Like,
absolutely,
he makes that pane of glass disappear before he knows anything about magic. He just is able to inherently. That's a sorcerer,
and that's the thing, is that like the biggest difference between a sorcerer and a wizard is that the magic comes from you rather than from basically an advanced physics textbook.
And I think sorcerers are actually one of the best classes to play. That if you want to do the trope of this hero of legend or someone of a prophecy,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great class to play because that just plays right
Oh
into
yeah.
that of centuries ago, somehow in your family, there's some sort of bloodline of whatever sorceress origin you pick, and it manifested in you. And now you're an
Mm-hmm.
adventurer. And I just think the ease of role play and storytelling is great in
Yeah.
that. I can't say enough good things about this class.
But as we always do, after saying all the good things, we do have to talk about some down points of the sorcerer.
So
And
your
I've
hit
got
die
a
is a
few.
D6.
Yeah.
Your hit die,
Uh,
your hit die. It's a
yep.
D6.
Sorcerer is one of those ones that like I always talk about how con is sometimes a dump stat. Not for sorcerers.
No, no.
No.
Your hit points
No.
are based on the same die that you find in the Pop-O-Matic bubble when you played Trouble. That's those are your hit points.
Why is that your reference for a D6?
What would you
Not
use?
not craps, not Yahtzee, not any board game.
I will tell you why. I initially thought Monopoly or Craps, but those both use 2 dice, and Yahtzee uses 5 dice. But
I mean that's
Trouble
fair.
just uses the one. Plus, when is the last time
Alright.
you thought about the Pop-O-Matic bubble?
You're not wrong.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, those are your hit points. If you get hit at low levels, you die.
Yep.
You dead.
And usually I'm an advocate for being a dodge boy, but not with a sorcerer. No.
Like,
No. Because that
yeah.
constitution also like feeds into being able to maintain concentration on spells, and
which is
that
so
can
important.
be huge for a sorcerer. And yeah, it's just you're a fragile little magic boy.
Yeah. Because the first thing you're doing is you're boosting that charisma as high as possible. It's your spellcasting mod. It's your spell save DC. This is all you do. You cast spells, get that charisma up there.
Yeah.
And then honestly, if I'm playing a sorcerer, my first stat is charisma, my second one is con, and my third one is actually dex. I don't care about intelligence or wisdom just because of how I approach a sorcerer.
Totally.
If the standard name from the Crap Guide to D&D series on YouTube, the name he always uses for sorcerers is Chad Firebolt.
I mean,
which
yeah.
I think's a great name because your sorcerer could be a total Chad.
100%.
Yeah, so like just be charismatic, and you don't have to be smart, and you don't have to have that much experience about stuff. Just make sure you have some hit points because you're eventually going to get hit by something, and you want to live.
Yeah. The other downside to the sorcerer that we mentioned a little bit ago is that like you've got all these spells, you've got all this meta magic, but you don't have all the spells.
Yeah,
And so
there'll
a
be
lot of
spells
times,
you'll wish you had.
a lot of times it can feel like you're getting repetitive with your spell casting. Like maybe you're using different of your meta magic sometimes, but you're gonna end up casting the same damage cantrips a lot. Kind of
You're
like a
gonna cast-
warlock and Eldritch Blast. Like you're probably gonna be sticking to Firebolt and Ray of Frost.
Yeah, or those will be your big two, honestly, because
Yeah.
it's gonna be a beam. It's from a distance. You'll get used to it.
Yeah, and those are two things like that, and just being fragile. Those are two things that are just gonna kind of suck when you're playing a sorcerer.
It's difficult. But there are some great subclasses within
Yes,
the sorcerer.
there are quite a few really good ones. In fact, like I'm still picking as we speak which of the subclasses that I truly like the most. Because it's one of the interesting things about warlocks is that as far as subclasses go, they're very balanced, except for like one that has some thematic problems that I'm gonna get at when we talk about the ones that we don't like.
I think we're thinking the same thing there.
Yeah.
For what I like though, there is one above all of them that I love, and it's partially because it plays right into my personal play style.
Okay.
And look where we find it.
Jesus Christ.
Once again, I mean, look, 5th edition did a great job out of the gate because almost every
You're
class,
not wrong.
my favorite archetype is in the player's handbook for almost all of them. And this is the Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer.
Yup.
First off, we talked about how hit points are a liability. You take the Draconic Bloodline, you get +1 HP every level.
Yep. Which
it's not a lot, but
it's,
I mean,
it's helpful.
It's one more. It's one more. And I have played enough games where there have been encounters where at the end of it, I had 1 hit point left.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if I'd had 1 less, I'd have gotten dropped. And then also, you just get a natural armor boost. Your AC is 13 plus your dex. You basically get permanent mage armor if you think about it.
Yep. And those
again,
two things are big holdouts from sorcerers of past editions.
Yeah.
Because like the dragon bloodline of a sorcerer is as classic of a sorcerer as you can get.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, just the fact that you have that perma mage armor. I said dex is one of the stats that I would really want to have high, and I wouldn't feel like I needed to start with like a 16 out of the gate. Even if you have a 14 dex at level 1, you're a spellcaster walking around with a 15 AC.
Like that's significant.
That's nothing to sneeze at. Like that's really worthwhile. And some attacks will miss you. Not a lot of them, not all of them.
A few.
Yeah, but you have a decent AC, and you have the kind of AC that a wizard would have after spending a spell slot to cast Mage Armor. Yeah. The important thing to remember, Mage Armor now becomes a useless spell to you because you can only use 1 armor modifier. Mage Armor would give you the same modifier as if you didn't use it. But I love this. And then on top of that, when you pick your what kind of dragon your bloodline was descended from, you get a damage resistance.
Yeah, you do. And that's huge.
Yeah, you go, I was descended from a red dragon. You now have resistance to fire damage, which is so common in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving yourself damage reduction. You get more hit points. You get a higher AC. Granted, as far as other abilities in combat and whatnot, or other spells, this is one of the few where you don't get shit. And to me, that's okay, because I think sorcerer spells are good enough that I don't need it.
Mm-hmm. And the survivability from those is just so huge.
And when you hit level 6, you get the elemental affinity. So you cast a spell dealing a certain damage type, and it's got to be the one associated with your draconic ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I go with fire here because...
But if you're playing Descent into Avernus, don't pick fire.
No, really don't. But here's the cool thing. It says when you cast a spell dealing the damage type associated with your draconic ancestry, you can add your charisma modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell, and you can spend a sorcery point to get resistance to that damage type for an hour. Well, you probably already have that resistance because it's going to be part of your bloodline here. But here's what I love. This works on cantrips. So all of a sudden, at level 6, whatever that ancestry type is, you're now going to be able to basically kind of be like a warlock with their Eldritch Blast. You're adding your charisma mod. 14th level, you can sprout wings as a bonus action, and they stay away until you dispel them. That's big.
Thing to remember, though, that it specifically says about those wings.
It'll destroy your
clothes. If you're wearing mundane clothing, you're not going to have a shirt anymore.
Nope. Which can be really cool.
No, but also, if you're wearing something magical things don't break.
Yep.
You won't be able to use your wings.
Right. Your clothing has to be modified for the wings to come out. But I think those abilities in their own, if you end up playing up to level 14, now you have wingless flight. You've got cantrips where you're adding your charisma mod. And granted, you're adding it on any spell of that damage type, but really it shines in the cantrips. And all the different meta magics for sorcerers in general. I love the Draconic Bloodline. I don't care that it doesn't get other spells and whatnot. Perma Mage Armor, more hit points, and damage boost to my cantrips. Done. Sign me up.
Absolutely.
I love that one. And also, dragons are cool. It's called Dungeons and Dragons, guys.
Yeah. Also, dragons.
Also, dragons.
It's the opposite of the Purple Dragon Knight.
It is. The purple Dragon Knight is so terrible.
It's so bad.
So bad. Like, why be a purple Dragon Knight when you can be a Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer?
Yep. I mean,
And I do need to
there's
correct
still
myself. On one thing, you don't get damage resistance inherently to the type of dragon. I was thinking of a sorcerer I had built, which was a Dragonborn sorcerer, and you got that damage resistance because Dragonborn. But there's another little tip for you, because Dragonborn, if you're playing with the standard rules, you already get a small charisma mod. Play Dragonborn, take that damage resistance.
And then be ready to make all of the double dragon jokes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now I want to play Double Dragon.
God, that's right.
Yeah.
God, we're gonna watch Critical Role after we end this show. Otherwise, I'd find a way to like get an emulator so we could play Double Dragon online together.
We'll put that on the to-do list. Double Dragon.
Yes.
But what about you? Like, I know you've been over these. There's gotta be.
And the one that's come to mind for me, and it's really it's thematic things for me that really get at why I like these, and I bounce between the Shadow Magic and the Clockwork Soul, and the Shadow Magic and the Clockwork Soul, and the Shadow Magic and the Clockwork Soul, and I landed on the Shadow Magic.
It's so cool
because it's just, I mean, there are so many times that we've said like, "Hey, stay away from playing that edgelordy character because you're gonna be a dick."
Yeah.
But then there's the Shadow Magic Sorcerer.
I know.
You just get to be the scary boy. Like, and also just the inherent utility of so many of the things is like, right off the bat, you get dark vision.
That's big.
If you're playing a character race that doesn't get dark vision, yo. Like, yeah, dark vision. Yeah.
I want to jump in for just half a second before you get into any of the features. I think the Shadow Sorcerer quirks are one of the best part of this.
Oh, 100%.
Quirk number 6. You blinked once last week. I mean, these things are so cool and give so much roleplay potential.
Yeah.
And I say never overlook these when you're building your character.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, it's just so cool to have extra things that are written in they're really just roleplay things.
Yeah,
they really are. And it just the nice touch that Wizards of the Coast did when they threw in like, hey, by the way, the Shadow Sorcerers have these quirks.
Yeah. And I mean, well, you're talking about like the sort of like edgelord kind of thing, you know, the classic edgelord rogue, lone wolf, always does things by themselves, never wants to be a team player. That character sucks.
It does.
But if you're the Shadow Magic and you're like, oh, I just don't really think of a difference between people, whether they're live or dead. I treat corpses the same as live people. That's weird, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and also you have the one that would be just super fun to like only tell your DM and tell no one else until it comes up is the first one. Just you're icy to the touch.
Yup.
It'd just be the creepiest thing for another player character to figure out.
Yeah.
And just like, why are you cold? We're in the tropics.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And then, you know, I know I jumped back to that, but you get so many great abilities.
Oh, you absolutely do. And also, like, I love companions. And so getting the Hound of Ill-Omen at 6th level, you get a shadow puppy.
Yup.
And it's just like, I love companions in D&D. I know that they often can be game breaking. I know that they often can get ignored. Sparkle.
They're so cool.
That weasel is so dead in Critical Role. I don't know how.
Because they forget about it.
Just that thing is drowned like 8 times over.
Yep.
But like I love having companions in D&D, and so being able to pull up a Shadowhound with at that point what is kind of a small amount of sorcery points.
Yeah, it really is.
Like it's just 3, which at that point you have like I think you have a pool of like 6 or 7 at that point.
Is it sorcery points key points equal to your level?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like it's only 3. It's like at 6th level, like it's half, I guess.
Yeah.
But like having that having that ally that's with you, and let's see, how long does it stay around?
But it's super useful. You get that companion, and that can really just change the dynamic of a combat having any sort of
Absolutely.
companion. And I'm also big on the 14th level ability.
Oh, Shadow Walk? Yo.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just being able
'Cause
to bamf around a battlefield if there's
it's great.
shadows.
It's one of the few things that, like, usually when I see shared abilities between different classes, subclasses, I'm like, alright, that sucks. But this one that's shared between the Way of the Shadow Monk,
Mhm.
like, this one, it makes total sense, and it's actually useful for a sorcerer to have.
And you know, and again, like, you know, we talk about various tropes and stuff, like in the same way that somebody descended from a dragon is really common fantasy trope, which I'm all about.
Mhm.
This shadow thing, with the fact that we know in the next book coming out, the the guide to Ravenloft, one of the classes being a Dampier, not class,
One of the
races,
races.
being able to be a Dampier. The idea of being a Dampier shadow magic sorcerer that you can dip into shadows and come out,
Like, it's
it writes
so
itself,
perfect.
man. Yeah,
Like, also, I think for me, when I see Shadow Walk, I think classic WWF, WWE, The Undertaker just
sure,
appearing places. Like,
yeah.
that's obviously the thing that you've got to do thematically with this Shadow Sorcerer. Is just like, oh, there's a shadow over there. I'm there now.
And the thing is too, like, because you run on charisma, there's the possibility of being the face or one of the faces for your party.
Or
Now, if
being
it's like,
terrifying.
yes, you can be the terrifying one. If you have two party members that both have high charisma, it can be really fun. If one person has high persuasion and one has high intimidation, and you better give that shadow magic sorcerer the high intimidation.
Yep.
I mean, it can be fun to play against type a little bit of like, oh, I'm gonna make this like really silly, kind of cutesy, fun one, and that's cool. And if you do that, I'm not gonna yuck your yum. But I'll tell you right now, if I play a shadow magic sorcerer, I am leaning into
Oh, yeah.
that super dark, super aggro, because it's just too much fun.
Yeah. I'll say the 18th level ability, Umbral Form, I'm not a big fan of. Like,
No,
it's cool. Like, it'd be fun to narrate and describe, but it really doesn't do a whole lot for you.
and honestly, I feel like, and I think wizards and sorcerers are the same way here, where it's like once you hit level 17 and you can now cast a 9th level spell, it's really hard to get a class ability to get excited about.
That, yeah, very yes.
You can cast a 9th level spell. Once you hit level 17 as one of those spellcasters, what do you care about what's coming after that? 9th level
Yeah.
spell.
At that
Like,
point, like,
that's my opinion on it.
you've got your biggest, coolest thing that you can do with your magic. Is
Yeah.
an ability really going to touch it?
No.
No.
You can cast Psychic Scream.
Yeah.
What do you care about what these other abilities are? You can cast Psychic friggin' Scream.
Like, I do not care anymore. Psychic motherfucking Scream.
I love that spell. It's so good.
It's so mean.
Yeah, if it kills them, their heads explode.
Yep.
Wonderfully gnarly spell.
Which, just if you're DMing, just earmark that spell for your big bad to like pop into a crowd at a festival and just kill an entire town.
Yeah.
Because
your,
then
your players will never forget that it happened.
Nope, and they will never forgive that villain.
Nope, they sure won't.
Yep.
They sure won't.
Yep. Speaking of things that we will never forgive,
Oh yeah.
some classes we don't like.
So I'm gonna let you go first because you said there's one that really stands out to you.
There's one, and it's not even because it's like mechanically bad or it's just not fun, but it's simply because it feels like to me, because it's a newer subclass.
Okay.
And it feels like to me this subclass was made to just go, hey, we added scions back in. Let's put everything psionic into this one subclass.
It feels very shoehorned.
And it's the Aberrant Mind. And like, it's fine. It's a solid subclass because there really
Sure.
isn't a like mechanically weak sorcerer subclass, which
No.
shout out to the design of sorcerers in 5th edition. But the aberrant mind just feels like, all right, let's just take everything that's psionic and let you do that.
Well, and yeah, it's like, so you're possibly descended or you were touched by a mind flayer?
Yeah,
Question
like
mark.
it doesn't really make any sense.
And don't get me wrong, I love my Spelljammer. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Spelljammer is good stuff, and I'm all about stuff with the Gith and mind flayers and all that good stuff. It's awesome. But yeah, I'm with you. It feels a little forced. And the thing
Yeah.
is, the abilities are fine,
Yeah.
but there's
The-
nothing about it that I feel like rewrites the sorcerer in a way that I go, oh man, I need to play this.
Yeah, like the like telepathic speech, like cool, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I mean the oh, which character race is it that has that built in? It starts with
Oh,
uh
the Kalish? Is
yeah,
Kalishtar?
Kalishtar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Kalishtar has that built in and it lasts longer. And that's your one first level ability.
Yeah, it's like I have a hard time getting really excited for it.
And also it's just telepathy with one person. Like it's not that useful. It doesn't last that long. It's kind of a meh. And if you're
Yeah.
gonna like if we're gonna shoehorn all the psionic stuff into this, then like go full bore with it. Like your family bloodline was touched by a mind flayer. Like give some mind flayer type stuff.
Yeah, it's very okay, and I agree that a lot of the psionic stuff as it's come in, it's just felt like this need to, oh look, we have psionics now, we have psionics now,
Yeah.
and it
And like
didn't
yeah,
feel,
people have been clamoring for scions and psionic classes, but
yeah,
not like this.
no, again, mechanically it's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm
And
with
like
you.
other classes, subclasses that have the psionic stuff in it, it happens much better.
Yeah.
Like it fits better. Like even the psionic rogue subclass with the mind knife and just being able to like, hey, I create a dagger out of nothing. Like
Oh look, I'm Psylocke from the X-Men.
yeah, pretty much. But like that still at least kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
with you. You're like, okay, I can see this. I can get behind this, and it's again, it's not bad. I think the only place where I end up getting a little frustrated with it, and I'm completely on your side here. You have the psionic spells list, and you look at some of the things on there, and a lot of them aren't spells that do psychic damage. I'm actually a little
Yeah.
disappointed that at Sorcerer 3rd level, like you get Calm Emotions and Detect Thoughts, and I can see how both of those have to do with psychic energy, but I love the new spell Tasha's Mind Whip. It's a great spell. How great would this class be if you just got that spell as a freebie?
Oh,
Here you
absolutely.
go.
And
You
it
know,
would
you
make sense.
It would. So I'm a little on the fence with how much I do or don't like this one. I think adding Tasha's Mind Whip would have done a lot for me just to feel more psionic-y. Telepathic speech, I don't care that much about. I'm with you. Psionic sorcery
Yeah.
and psychic defenses, you have resistance to psychic damage. It is one of the least common damage types in the game.
Like it's so like that resistance is so niche.
Yeah.
And then like the 14th level revelation in flesh, like you spend a sorcery point and you get to change your body somewhat. I mean, cool, kinda.
Yeah,
like
cool, I guess. Question
but
mark?
like each thing, like you're playing a charisma heavy character, and
Yeah.
usually people that make charisma heavy characters, your character's gonna be attractive. Like that's just generally what people go to.
Yeah.
And
And if you don't, I won't lie, I do question you a little bit. I'm like, come on.
see, I fully support it because
I support
go
it too,
against
but
type.
here's the thing. My characters generally, they're hot because I want them to be.
Yeah, because if we're gonna play in a fantasy world, I'm gonna be hot, damn it.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's
I'm
like,
gonna be
oh,
hot and tall, motherfucker.
I know, yeah. Like, Bjorn, what's your fighter look like? George Clooney. Looks like George Clooney. In fact, you know what? It's George Clooney. That's who it is.
I mean,
My
hell,
paladin is George Clooney.
my fighter is a cross between
Yeah,
between Burt Reynolds and
Lando Calrissian.
like, I just like you have to.
Yeah, your fighter looks like Billy D. Williams.
Yep, and just like if I'm playing
Yeah.
Fantasy World, I'm gonna be hot.
Yeah,
And if I'm a charisma heavy character, I'm gonna be hot. And you know
Exactly.
what all those transformations do? They have a little added thing at the end of the sentence where where that's not hot.
Yeah.
Like you can see invisible creatures within 60 feet of you, and your eyes either turn jet black or are tendrils. Let's see. The next one. You gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and you can hover. And as you fly, your skin glistens with mucus.
Yeah, tendrils and mucus are not hot. I don't care who you are. Tendrils for eyes, not hot. Never has.
I mean,
been, never will be.
the swim speed one, isn't as bad, because like the first option is like you grow gills from your neck or like from behind your ears, but also webbed fingers, or you grow cilia.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm with you.
Like it's just, if you're playing a charisma heavy character that you probably want to be hot, you're not gonna do any of those.
No, you don't want that. Nobody wants
No,
that.
absolutely not. And
Well-
it's just not a fun, interesting subclass to me, because it's just, here's all these psionic things. Also, if you want to do some of them, you're not hot anymore for the time you do it. Like, great, I can't use one of my magical abilities to show off.
Yeah, otherwise I got tentacles coming out my eyes. I don't want that.
No.
I don't want that.
I'm gonna hit on this person at the bar by telling them about that I can see their invisible companion.
It's done. Yeah. No, I feel you. There for me, that's not the one I chose, though. I did look at it, and I was looking over that bit about the physical changes and going,
yeah, it's just, those are just such heavy drawbacks for an ability that already costs you a sorcery point.
I know,
like,
why would I do this on purpose?
Why am I paying in sorcery points and attractiveness?
There are like curse tables you can roll on that has that kind of crap on it. Like the Demon Ichor and Descent into Avernus, the ways it changes you are basically like that.
Yeah. Like there's
This is not a class feature. This is a drawback. Bah! Don't give me tendril eyes, please. I think that's the worst one.
But also, I think that's a great flex if you use that, because you have the choice of just your eyes turning jet black or the tendrils. That's a flex if you pick the tendrils.
It is. You know what? I will say this. If you're making an intimidation check and you pick the tendrils, your DM might let you roll it at advantage.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't care who it is. If somebody's trying to intimidate me and their eyes turn into tendrils, I can guarantee it'll be a success.
Why not Zoidberg eyes?
Ooh, okay. I may be reconsidering when you bring Zoidberg into it. So there is a subclass that I don't love. I'm gonna mention an honorable mention one real quick, and the only reason I'm mentioning this one, I love it in theory. It's also in here. It's the wild magic, and the reason it's even on my radar is one I don't like. Your DM is highly responsible to how much this stuff happens. Tides of Chaos, great ability. Give yourself advantage. Holy crap, that's awesome. And then when you cast a spell of first level or higher, the DM can choose to make you roll a d20, and on a 1, you roll on the wild magic table. Well, if your DM doesn't remember to have you roll that d20 regularly, you're not going to end up rolling on the wild magic table, which is such a huge part of this class. And also, you may play an entire campaign where you never roll on the wild magic table because you never rolled a nat 1 right then.
Yeah.
So,
and like also putting like with Tides of Chaos, putting it on your DM. Yeah. DMs have a lot to think about already. They're not going to remember your one fucking random ability.
No. I honestly, if I were to be allowed to make an errata to this, it'd be very simple. Is when you cast a spell of first level or higher, if you have Tides of Chaos, you lose it. And then if you don't have Tides of Chaos and you cast a spell of first level or higher, you roll a d20. And on a 1, you roll on the wild magic table, and regardless of whatever, you get your Tides of Chaos back. So you would constantly be using this stuff, and you'd always be rolling, and it'd be up to you, the player, to remember. Because what's one of the most cliche things about DMs saying about players? Read your character sheet, read your class abilities, read your spells. Like as DMs, we do sometimes chastise our players, probably more than they deserve sometimes. A player won't know how a spell works, and because we want to keep combat moving, maybe we sometimes get more frustrated than we should. And we'll be like, you should read your spell. Well,
it's like, yo, it's your spell.
Exactly. Like, and I think there is a certain amount of onus on the players. Know your spells. Just know them. But making your DM remember your abilities, they have a lot to do. And so that's my only issue with wild magic. It's not a bad class, and it's not the one I chose for the one I don't like.
All right. Which one did you not dig so much?
So I looked through all the sorcerers, and I found a problem. I found a wizard hiding amongst my sorcerers.
Oh, you did? Oh, I know the one you're thinking of.
I found the Clockwork Soul. Now look.
Yep.
You get some cool stuff, but it talks about how you are all about the power of order because it's this glorious system. I'm sorry, you're a sorcerer. You're an individual who got your abilities from this bloodline. They're strange, they're powerful, they're chaotic by nature, and you're about order? No. That is a wizard, man. It's such a wizard. I mean, hey, you get some decent spells. I like the fact that you get Alarm as a freebie spell, Lesser Restoration. That's great. 7th level Freedom of Movement. And shit, when you hit level 9, getting Greater Restoration and Wall of Force, those are two dope-ass spells.
Oh, yeah.
The Manifestations of Order, I actually kind of like them. I like the spectral cogwheels behind you. The hands of a clock spin in your eyes. That's fun.
Yeah. That's why I kind of love that subclass.
Yeah. Number 5 is my favorite. Your spellcasting focus temporarily takes the form of a tiny clockwork mechanism. And I love that it's temporary. But the fact that this is all about balance and law and all these things, the trance of order, I look at that, and as I read about just how, orderly, and this is the way it is, I'm like, this sounds like a wizard to me.
Yep.
And if there's one thing that takes me out of a class faster than anything, is if I look at it and I go, this feels like a different class. And that's just because of my approach to the game. I want all my classes to behave a certain way to a point. And for my sorcerers, they are all going to be some kind of chaotic.
Right.
At least they make it into that neutral realm. When you talk about order and you talk about law, I can't see it for a sorcerer. Like, okay, so from my bloodline, I can do all this really cool magic stuff. And so now I'm a hall monitor? Like, what is this? Why? No. Nobody wants that. And I can see the role play opportunity here, but I don't feel like it feels like a sorcerer.
And you're right. It's the least sorcerer-y sorcerer.
Yeah.
Well, so except for maybe the Divine Soul.
Which, I mean, the only reason I didn't pick that one is because you can pick the different domains within it.
Yeah.
Which allows for a lot of potential there. And also the Divine Soul, when you look at the abilities you get, I can't not pick it because it's so flipping good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you pick Divine Soul Sorcerer and there is no one else in your party that can cast healing spells, you're fine.
Yep.
You are fine. You are this violent hammer of magic, but you can still heal. It's an amazing subclass.
You're a violent hammer of magic with a couple band-aids.
Exactly. Like, here, I'll heal you a little bit. Which, no, I think it's great.
You can just have a little healing, as a treat.
Just a little. But yeah, I have a hard time with the Clockwork Soul, and yeah, it's. I think the other problem with that is when I was talking about the stats I care about with as a wizard. I think when you get into that, oh, I'm all about order. I think you have to have either intelligence or wisdom there.
You
Like
do.
that's not based in charisma. So because those are two stats that I generally don't care about for my sorcerer, I have a hard time finding where I, the player, would really want to role play this character.
I feel
I
that.
I have a hard time manifesting it. So that subclass is a huge miss for me, and it's purely because I can't see past seeing it as a wizard. Now, the one caveat I will say is if you pick the charlatan background and you constantly pretend that you're a wizard and try and convince everyone you're a wizard, and that's why you're all about order and it's all a deception, but deep down you're really about chaos. Now I'm in.
That's hilarious.
And if someone said you have to play one, that's exactly what I would do with it. Is I'd go, okay, they are a total con man, and they're just trying to convince everybody to buy a monorail.
For me, the Clockwork Soul is such. It's because of the level 1 ability that I enjoy it from a player's side.
Oh yeah,
because it's just such a troll move. it's just because the first level ability is restore balance, and basically you get to use this ability as many times as your proficiency bonus, so it goes up over time, which I'm always a fan of.
6 times.
Like I'm always a fan of with abilities that grow with you.
Yes.
Like because it sucks so much to have an ability that's like fun in the beginning, but then you lose it, and like I remember how much fun that was. This one you don't, and you just get to the DM gets advantage on you for some reason, and you just get to go, nope.
Yeah, I cancel it. There's no advantage here. I cancel it.
It's just so ridiculous to me that I can't not love it.
But I will say, if as a player, if you're going, oh yeah, I want that ability where I can mess with my DM, there is a wizard school that we'll unquestionably talk about when we get there in 2 weeks that lets you do it even better. Or if you just want to take the wind out of your DM sails, just we talked about the Grave Cleric.
Yep.
Play a Grave Cleric, because when they crit and you go Sentinel at Death's Door, it's no longer a crit. Your DM will just stop talking for a minute and just look at you.
Yep.
It will just look.
I know that's a class ability for you, but I don't like it.
Nope. So yeah, I do agree. Like any ability you have where you can fuck with the DM a little bit, I think is a good thing, because it creates an interesting balance and it keeps that balance to a certain extent. But outside of that, I have a hard time getting really excited about the ability. Like I hear you. Like,
I feel that.
From a chaotic standpoint, it's great. The only reason I didn't like fall in love with that ability is, like you said, it's your proficiency modifier, which means even at level 1, you're only able to do it 2 times. And the thing is, there are so many ways to get advantage in
You're not wrong.
5e. So like it's going to be hard to decide, well, when do I use this? Because I only get it twice. You don't even get your 3rd use until you hit level 5.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly not trying to dunk on it as an ability. It's just one where I would warn players, don't get too excited about it, because you're not going to get to use it as often as you would like. And
that's very true. But it's such shenanigans that
I guarantee
you're going to enjoy when you use it.
Yeah, and once you've used it, I can guarantee you will encounter a situation where you just wish you had it. So
yeah. But also, that's the kind of ability that you would wish you always had it. So
true. Yeah, it's like 6 of one, half dozen the other. But yeah, I mean, overall, as a class, like for me to come up with the one I didn't like, I had to go, it feels like a wizard, and that speaks volumes to how good the sorcerer classes are.
Well, I mean, and sorcerers, like the sorcerer class has been such a long running like fantasy class that I'm glad that it's still good and fun. And
Me too.
I mean, the 5th edition Sorcerer still feels like kind of a different Sorcerer.
Yeah, it
Like,
does. And the other thing I love about it is, there are some people who they want to play a big, powerful spellcaster and they want to do damage with those spells. So, okay, Bard, Cleric, and Druid are out because they're not about big damage with their spells. Bards and Druids do a lot of control. Clerics, they do a lot of healing. They can do some damage.
I mean, unless you're a Druid that, I don't know, puts a tidal wave in an enclosed space.
That didn't do a lot of damage. That's just wrecked an encounter from just an absurd decision. But I stand by it, and I love that Casey did that.
So funny.
What the fuck? Who does that?
Who just in an enclosed space? Here's all of the water.
I know. You guys are lucky you didn't drown from it. Well, I mean, you could whatever. It was a great moment. But
it was funny as all get out.
But your two big arcane hammers is the Sorcerer and the Wizard. And there are people who don't like the Wizard because they don't like the spell preparation aspect. Like it's frustrating if you're playing a Wizard and okay, I prepared my spells for the day and you encounter a situation and you have the perfect spell for it, but it's not prepared. And there is no way to get that spell. Unless you take a long rest. That's it. It's the only way to get it. And honestly, that's rough and that's annoying. So at least with a Sorcerer, you have the spells you have. And the only reason I don't feel like it is this like diminished casting type in comparison to the Wizard is the meta magic. When you, I mean, we barely touched on it, but when you look at, for example, Quickened Spell, where spell with a action, casting of one action, now it's a bonus action, which can be pretty huge.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna cast a powerful offensive spell as a bonus action, and then I'm gonna take the disengage action to get out of dodge. Like, or
which,
you can cast huge. Yeah, or you can cast a cantrip with your action if you want to get even more damage out there. But it really frees up what you can do. Or my personal favorite is the subtle spell, where you cast a spell with no verbal or somatic components. And the reason that one's so great is if you're facing another spellcaster, you go, okay, I'm going to use some sorcery points. I cast this spell. I use subtle spell. And if your DM with that spellcaster is like, counter spell, you as a player can just go, how'd they know I was casting a spell? I didn't say anything. I didn't make any motions. The spell's just here. What are they countering? And I feel like you'd have a great case to go, I don't think you can counterspell me here, DM.
Totally.
Suck the spell. Eat my cone of cold. So
and see, my personal favorite of the meta magic, and this goes back to using meta magic in earlier editions of D&D, but that twin spell.
I was just going to mention that one.
Meta magic of twin spell is just so cool because it makes so many spells exponentially cooler. Yeah. Because you can't use it on like multi-target ray spells. Like you can't twin a scorching ray. Like it specifically says you can't twin a scorching ray because you fire multiple rays. Fine, cool, but you can twin a cone of cold.
You can. And just a fun thing that you can do, because remember, cantrips scale with level. So think about the dice you're using. When you hit 5th level, Firebolt is the kind of the go-to arcane weapon. You're now doing 2d10 if you hit. So now you do a twinned spell, and you can target 2 different enemies on a cantrip for 2d10 fire damage each. And that's not bad. That's
not at all. That's
viable
significant.
Damage. And the thing is, by having that meta magic, it allows you to shape your cantrips as well. And the biggest thing where a lot of spellcasters get bored is like, all right, I cast my same damage cantrip again. I cast Firebolt. I cast Firebolt. And so when you're able to just sculpt those spells a little bit, it makes it a little more interesting. So yeah, I love everything about Sorcerers. I disagree with anybody who says, oh, if someone's going to play a caster for the first time, give them a Sorcerer as opposed to a Wizard because a Sorcerer is easier. And I highly disagree. I think it's the other way around. I think the Sorcerer might be the most complicated class in the game.
See, I think
because of meta magic.
It's like teaching someone to play like Shogi or Go, where it's easy enough to get the basic principles of Sorcerer, but it's really hard to figure out actually what makes a sorcerer tick. As opposed to the wizard, where, like, it looks heavy and complicated at the top, but once you get the initial stuff down, it's simple from there on.
Yeah, the biggest thing they have is just learning all your damn spells. Whereas for your sorcerer, you're going to want to look at, well, how does each of my meta magics that I've chosen, how do they interact with the spells I have?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that other thing you have to think about as you're leveling up, because you can't have all the meta magics.
Yep.
You choose them. Maybe you're in a party that's got you've got a barbarian and a paladin. And so now, again, what's the big wizard complaint? Well, I would have cast Fireball, but the barbarian and the paladin were up in melee and I didn't want to kill them. Well, now you cast Careful Spell.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, it makes it easier for your allies to evade these spells you're casting. Like, there's a lot you can do to just feel like this incredibly powerful force on the battlefield, session after session after session.
And you get to be that shaper of spells that you really want.
I mean, the sorcerer should never be overlooked for sheer arcane might.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'll always go back to the Draconic Bloodline, simply because perma Mage Armor, more hit points.
Yep.
And I don't think you're losing out by not getting those extra spells that some of the other sorcerer types get.
Could you look for me? Because if I try and pull it up, it'll make the stream go all wonky and grumpy again. But do sorcerers get access to the spell Enlarge Reduce?
That's a great question. I can look up that right now.
Because if that's a thing, twinning that spell, oh god.
Oh goodness, that's a great question, and yeah, I don't know if they do. I'm gonna look it up right now.
My brain's just a buzz with like different ideas to do with the different meta magics and spells.
Yeah, I think that's a wizard only, but no, it's a sorcerer spell. Sorcerer, wizard, artificer, all get it.
So you can twin, Enlarge, Reduce. Let me paint a fucking picture for you, my dude.
Yeah.
You are here against the big bad. You've already done the work to expend their legendary resistances.
Yep.
It's getting further on into the fight. Your team is getting tired. Your barbarian is like at half hit points, which for a barbarian,
they still have 300.
Rough. And then your sorcerer pulls out just this little bag of tricks of, I'm going to enlarge our barbarian and reduce the big bad.
Yes.
And
if those both land, you change the fight completely. That
twinned enlarge reduce of just blep. And then your barbarian, this big bad barbarian, can just stomp on
it's just fee fi fo fum at that point.
Yeah. You can stomp on the little bad evil guy.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing is like you talk about with the twinned spell. Look at spells that can like augment you and like hurt your enemy. A large reduce being one of the few that does that, but you'll find a few other spells you're like, oh, I can make this work. Yeah, find ways to have fun with it, and yeah, it's so good. It's also, I think, people see sorcerers in media more than they actually see wizards. To be honest,
well, that's because
the movie Willow gets it right, because Willow refers to himself as a powerful sorcerer. And he is a sorcerer. He's not a wizard, because it's just the innate ability to do magic.
Well, it's because like in writing, like especially like writing for American audiences, it's so much more palatable and more interesting to American audiences for someone that can just up the magic, you know, as opposed to like, no, I took the time and learned and studied to be able to understand this. Here's a montage of all the ridiculous equations that I learned to be able to cast these spells. Like, that's just it's not as interesting to American audiences, so I get it.
Where as opposed to, you know, problem rolls in a town and all of a sudden this incredibly hot individual walks up there, because again, you're a sorcerer.
Yep,
you can be hot.
You're gonna be hot.
And if you're me, you're gonna be hot. Like, that's just how it is. George Clooney walks out there, and then it's surprise, motherfucker, as you just cast this spell, and no one's ready.
Surprise! twinned fireballs.
Yeah, it's great.
Then you would have to, if you made that your signature thing, you would have to model your sorcerer after Johnny Cash.
Which is fair. And again, a lot of charisma there. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah.
No, I mean, Johnny Cash was a bard.
You're not wrong, but
literally. But I hear you. But your man in black could be a shadow magic sorcerer.
Oh, absolutely. There's also a thing that I meant to talk to you about before the stream, and it just repopped into my head now. All right, Rude. I was thinking at the end of this whole, and we'll just talk about it on the stream because I don't give a damn. At the end of this whole going through all the different characters,
yes,
would you like to do an episode on our favorite multi-classes? At the
I
end
would. Yeah,
okay.
Just touch on just a couple of multi-classes. I would.
Yeah, then we'll slate that for the end after we get through the Artificer and the Blood Hunter.
Perfect.
Cool. Dope. So now you're all ready for that. Surprise, not a surprise. But that's the end of our time.
It is.
Thank you so much for sticking around and watching.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching on YouTube. Do remember that these episodes will go up as long as I remember to put them up. Every Saturday, the week of. I try and do that Saturdays at noon. I try and set them to go. Usually they do. Sometimes I get busy. But yeah, let's see. Other closing things. Please, watch us on YouTube. Follow our Instagram that we don't post anything on yet.
We're gonna get better at that probably by April.
We say that every week, and
I know we do. That's why I'm giving us all the way till April.
Eventually it might happen. Also, we had what could be an interesting idea for the one-shots that I don't want to say outright because I kind of want to keep it a surprise just in case we end up not doing it.
We'll try and get some one-shots going fairly soon.
But yeah. Still hoping to do the one shot of a month at least. Which also, if you want to get in on those and you're a fan, maybe we'll let you in. Who knows?
Let us know. We'll chat you
let
up.
us know.
If we feel like you'd be a good fit, we'll have you on, play for a couple hours, and get to know you.
In the Facebooks, in the YouTube comments, chats. I don't know why I'm talking like Swirly Dan's, but here we are.
Because you just have to sometimes.
That's true. But let's get off of this stream before we keep rambling any further. Bjorn, what do we always say?
Do something nice for yourself this weekend.